Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
Embiid had 4 turnovers and lost in the game.
Yeah.
This is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for tuning back to the Whistlethrowers podcast. This is Jack Mubarak, joined by
Jack Slaymaker.
And Aiden Tigzinski.
Welcome back in studio, Aiden.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, of course. It's much nicer doing this than calling from my dorm room, so
Yeah.
it'll sound a little bit better too.
Mm-hmm. Let's just get it out of the way. The Sixers choked Game 7 in the worst possible way imaginable. We're all Sixers fans. I'm not heartbroken by it, but I can't root for that team anymore.
I'm going to start off. I'm the complete opposite. I'm destroyed in a million pieces. I'm heartbroken, devastated. I feel betrayed. I feel let down. It would be a different story if these guys came out and showed they actually gave a crap. And I get missing shots. I get it. Embiid shot 5 for 18. Bro, I get it. You're going to have off nights. That's okay. But what I can't see is the laziness, the moping around. It looked like they gave up in the third quarter when the Celtics started pouring it on. It was tied at 58, and it ended up being 80-58, I think, at the end of the third quarter. It was an utter disgrace. And that's where they lost the game. You played 2 good quarters. The fourth quarter you threw the fourth quarter away. You didn't play any of your good players. The game was out of reach. You lost the game in the third quarter in those minutes where everyone is moping around. And again, like I said, it's okay to have an off night. It's okay. But let's be real. What superstar, what bona fide champion in this league is going into Boston in that Game 7 and putting up a stinker that Embiid did?
No.
Not an MVP.
Well,
not
one
an
other
MVP.
guy that did, it was James Harden. That's
Right.
the other.
Right.
And here's what I'll add on about your whole take about superstars. Jason Tatum had an off night in Game 6 and still scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. There's a reason why there was a Game 7.
And I'll pause you there, and I'll let you keep going. We'll get back into that because you are completely right. Jason Tatum had multiple stinkers in this series. Multiple. Yeah. And the Celtics still prevailed. Yeah. That says a lot about the Celtics, and that says a lot about the Sixers, too.
Yeah. No, I'm sort of in between both you, Jack, and Slay. When it comes to devastating loss this year by Philadelphia sports teams, the Eagles are first. I would say not Sixers. I would go Philly second, just because it was the World Series, because they had a 2-1 lead over the Astros, and it seemed like things were going okay. Mm-hmm. Sixers are third. The thing is, I wasn't heartbroken, but I was just pissed. Mm-hmm. I was pissed that we had to go through an entire process, the process, as it was known in the city of Philadelphia. I hated the fact that we went through 6 years of Joel Embiid being a starter, and the best we did was get to the second round. Mm-hmm. I hated the fact that for years there was everyone else to blame except Embiid, and this year there's no cover.
Yeah, right.
Before it was Ben Simmons. Last year it was the coaching of Doc Rivers. What is it this year? You fired Rivers, that's not going to do you anything because Embiid didn't show up and neither did Harden.
Yeah.
Doc Rivers actually did a good job coaching this team, all things considering.
I completely agree.
I understand that you have to fire him. Look, I get it. The way it happened, though, to me, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Because I know, Slay, that you haven't been a defender of Doc Rivers. You've been one of his biggest critics on the show. But it's just hard for me to say that Doc Rivers was treated fairly in this situation.
Completely agreed. And and it's hard for me to sit here and say, oh, the Sixers lost this series because Glenn Rivers got outcoached. Absolutely. Absolutely the hell not.
He outcoached Missoula.
The whole series. The entire series. He outcoached him. You had 2 40-point games from James Harden. PJ Tucker put up 11 points in Game 7. 11! There's no other excuse. I'm sorry. Joel Embiid, we lost the series because you didn't show up. You didn't show up. That's why we lost the series. And listen, we can go through the list too. The supporting cast wasn't great. It just wasn't.
No, okay, yeah, it wasn't great, but Tobias still scored 19 points in Game 7.
And I'm not going to sit here and say Glenn coached his pants off. He didn't. There were some mistakes. The Celtics countered with Robert Williams starting in Game 6, and we didn't have an answer to that. Some of it falls on coaching, but at the same time, your coaching is only as good as what the players execute on the court. And the players did not execute it from top to freaking bottom. I think the only guy that I'll excuse for this series is Tyrese Maxey. I think he's the only guy. I think he played consistently. He didn't put up huge numbers, but you always knew the effort was there. He was playing with an insane amount of heart. That's a Philadelphia athlete. That's someone that we love and embrace. And in this city, we have wanted to embrace Embiid for so long. And he had the opportunity. This was the year. You had to get through Boston, and you were the favorite. After we won Game 5 a week ago, last Tuesday night, the Sixers were the odds-on favorite to win the NBA title. You had it in your hands. You needed your stars to show up. And Game 6, the supporting cast was horrible. Tobias Harris played 42 minutes and had 2 points and took 7 shots. I understand it, but you had a 2-point lead with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter of Game 6, a 3-2 lead at home, a chance to close it out, and Embiid did not touch the basketball. That is on Embiid.
And the one time
it's on
he
Embiid.
did, he threw the ball away.
It's
and
on
then
him.
Shot a 3-pointer.
He was scared. He was scared to get the ball.
So going back to the 2020 bubble game, I want to say it was Game 3. There was a point where the game was really, really close in the fourth quarter. Embiid had 4 turnovers and lost in the game.
Yeah.
This is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Sixers fans, Sixers coaching, Sixers front office, and the starting players need to understand about Embiid. When the game is close and you need someone to step up in the fourth quarter, it's not going to be Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be James Harden either.
Yeah.
And they don't have anyone else that can step up at this point.
And it's also not because of a lack of ability by Joel Embiid. He's scared. Yeah. He shrinks. Yeah. He is visibly scared on the court. He is terrified of the moment. Terrified. He is pissing down his leg. This is why you go back to June 30th, 2019. You allowed Jimmy Butler to walk from your team. You had him. You could have extended him to a $200 million contract. I would have given this man boatloads of money for his entire life to stay here and win one championship. You had him in your lap and you let him go. And that right there, June 30th, 2019, that is the moment you were going down the right road and you took a left turn. That was the moment right there. Yeah. Because Embiid is a great player. We all know that.
Great regular season player.
He's great, but he can't be the leader of the team. No. He can be the best player on a championship team, but he can't be the leader. If Jimmy Butler was here, Embiid would be the best player, but this would be Jimmy Butler's team. He would be the leader, and like you said, he would be the guy with the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter when you need it. Yeah. And he won't turn the ball over, and he will make those shots. Yeah. And he will get guys open shots. He will make the team around you better. Embiid and Harden just don't do it. They just don't. And that was the thing I was buying into this year. The supporting cast was good. It was solid.
This was the best supporting cast since that 2019
right.
team.
Yeah. And you needed your 2 superstars to elevate the game of those guys. And they didn't. So I can sit here and say Tobias Harris played 42 minutes and took 7 shots and 2 points. I can say that. And right, he deserves a lot of blame. But he needed to be elevated. I'm sorry. He's not that guy. He needs to be elevated. And you needed your superstars to step up and do it. And I've heard a report that Embiid is not happy that Glenn Rivers was fired. It was in your hands, dude. Don't let him get fired. It was in your hands. He's fired because you didn't show up. And I'm the one who's been hating on him the most. Yeah. I said he should have been fired after 2021. Yeah. I said he should have been fired last year. And going into the season, I've been saying, I said he should have been fired in December and January even. Yeah. But Glenn Rivers did an exceptional job with this group. He did an exceptional job. I think he got them as far as they could go.
Considering that this team was 12-12 at one point, and that was when it was very high on everyone's radar that Doc might get fired.
Yeah.
He turned the whole season around.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And then B got hurt at that point too. And that could have been a huge turning point. That could have been when the Sixers were just a 500 team and everything was going downhill. Yeah. He is a big reason why they were able to be the 3rd seed.
Yep.
Because the team improved when Embiid was hurt. Mm-hmm. And that should have been a huge sign that the team actually looked a lot better when Embiid was not on the court.
Yeah.
Because in the playoffs, the team looked better when Embiid was not on the court.
It freaking showed. And that's the thing. I think Harden is going to get so much blame. Harden did what he could. I mean, he put up 2 40-point games. Yeah. If you told me going into the series that Harden was going to drop 40 twice in 2 separate games, I told you we'd win in 5 or 6. Because I would expect Embiid to show up and average 31, 32. Not have a 9-point drop-off from your regular season average. Yeah. And that's where we sit. I can't put this on Harden. Harden did what he could within his ability. Harden just isn't a great player anymore. Mm-hmm. And he played exceptional in spots, in certain spurts.
Which is what you would expect your second best player to do, is step up when your first guy. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you're saying.
I mean, he's not free of blame all of a sudden. Like,
No.
he was definitely a reason we lost. He was inconsistent as hell. You never knew what James Harden you were getting coming into the game. You just didn't know. And the last 2 games, you needed him to show up, and he didn't show up. But at the same time, those games were still winnable. I know Game 7 was a blowout, but that was winnable.
Yeah.
It was a 3-point game at halftime, and Harris came out and shot a 3 and tied it.
Yeah.
It was 55-55. Yeah. That was a winnable game. It was right there, and you quit. Yeah. You were scared, and you quit.
Yeah. The part that irritates me about Embiid is that 3 years ago, I remember saying, because I totally forgot about this to now, saying that, because this is right around when Bryce Harper just finished his first year in Philly, I said that Bryce Harper had a Philly mentality and Joel Embiid didn't. And I got a lot of shit for saying that. And when Embiid started playing better in the regular season and improved in the regular season, became an MVP player, I sort of forgot about that because I was saying, okay, now he has the talent. He's showing that he's not going to curse out the fans like he did when I was saying that. He embraced the fans after that and everything was cool, but he never stepped up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And especially now, look, it was okay to throw Ben Simmons under the bus. I'm totally okay with that. Last year, it was okay to say you didn't have the supporting cast.
Yeah.
This year, saying that you need to play 5-on-5, you're the reason they lost.
Yeah.
It's not the supporting cast at that point. It's on you.
Yeah.
You need to say, hey, guess what? This is the players I have. I've never once in the entire time that LeBron was on the Cavs carrying those scrubs to 4 straight finals.
Yeah.
I will say, not 4 straight, but 2 straight after Kyrie left.
Yeah.
And it was 4 straight total on 8. Like, this dude was exhausted by the end. He was in 8 straight finals, never really had a break. Played in the Olympics, too, by the way, which Embiid has never done.
Yeah.
Never complained once about how tired he was playing with these guys in the Cavs, and still competed against the Warriors, even with JR making that play they did. At that point, LeBron could have checked out.
And those were the closest, 4 or 5 game series that I've ever seen, too, because the games were always competitive. It was
Even
just
though
the
they
Warriors
got
were just
swept.
better. Like, they were just better.
Durant literally said that he knew the Warriors were going to sweep that series after that game with JR, and LeBron didn't quit once. This is Game 7, dude.
Yeah.
In the biggest stage of your entire career. And look, you can say, like, from a Sixers standpoint, yes, this is the biggest game of Joel Embiid's career. Everyone was trying to make the narrative it was James Harden's biggest career game. James Harden's been to a Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, he's played in an NBA Finals.
Yes,
literally, he has played in the NBA
as a
Finals.
6-man.
Yeah,
Like, people forget that he was on the Finals with the Thunder.
Yeah.
This dude has already played at the biggest stage he could possibly play.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to get there anymore. Like, obviously, he wants to win the Finals. That's why he came to the Sixers. But he doesn't need that.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid needs to get to an Eastern Conference Finals to be the player that we wanted him to be.
Pretty much to be taken seriously.
Yes.
Like,
look, Joel Embiid, there's 2 things that can be true. One is that Joel Embiid is one of the best scorers by a center in NBA history. He's one of the best regular season players that I've ever seen step on the court and should be considered one of the greatest Sixers ever. However, it is also true that in big moments, he shies away, and that's why he can't be taken seriously as a best player in NBA history.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. People forget that these things were said about Wilt Chamberlain, too. Yeah. Wilt Chamberlain shrunk in those games. He was owned by Bill Russell and those Celtics. And we're following down the same path. Like, Tatum owns us.
No.
I mean, Tatum is our father.
Just the
Celtics in general are their father.
Yeah, but the 4th quarter of Game 6 and the 51-point performance in Game 7, that to me shows me how much of a star Tatum is.
Yeah.
And I knew that he was a good player, but these playoffs have put him as a great player.
Yeah.
Up there with how we consider Jimmy Butler, but I'd say even above that.
Yeah.
This was Jordan type level, LeBron type level. The fact that he could play so badly in a game and still be confident enough to shoot, that's Mamba mentality.
Yeah. That's 100% Mamba mentality. And that's the other thing I wanted to get into too. I mean, this Celtics team they're built for a championship, man. They just are. They have 20-point scorers all over the floor. I think they play 7 guys that could legitimately score 20 points anytime. Jason Tatum and Brown both were struggling. Yeah. They were struggling to get shots and make shots. And they had the guys around them that just lifted it up. Yeah. Marcus Smart is an incredible basketball player. I love watching him play. I can't lie. I know he flops a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even mind flopping, to be honest. Everyone does it.
Everyone
and it's
does,
in this day and age, the officiating is so bad that you kind of need to flop to get calls sometimes.
But I will say in the playoffs, they do a much better job of officiating.
Definitely.
You have to.
Yeah.
But I think, and it's also hard to say that when you have 2 guys that sort of go after fouls. Yeah. When that's the other issue that I have with Embiid too. When he's not getting fouls called two issues. The two biggest issues I have with Joel Embiid: when he's not getting the foul shots that he needs, he shies down, and the moment that he starts out a game slowly shooting, he checks out.
Yeah.
That's what happened this game. Is not only did he not score at the beginning, but once that happened, he didn't try rebounding, he didn't try going for assists.
Yeah.
When Tatum wasn't scoring, he was still doing everything he humanly possibly could to keep the Celtics in the game. So that way, when he started scoring, they could win.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
It's just irritating. And it's irritating that we had to go through a 10-year process to get to this.
Yeah.
And we're literally back to where we were when we lost Game 7 to the Celtics.
I know.
11 years ago.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
Yep. Literally, it was an 8 seed with Evan Turner, Drew Holiday, Iguodala. They were only in there because Rose got hurt in the first round. And this is where we are.
We're more competitive with a team that had Hall of Fame players on that Celtics team. And look, this Celtics team is great. They're built for a championship, 100%. They don't have a guy like Kevin Garnett. Like, yes, Tatum is a great player himself. And Jaylen Brown is a great supporting player. It's not like they have Garnett and Pierce and, like, Rondo and, like, that team that was built for a championship, that had won a championship.
Yeah. And if you remember, too, that Game 7, Rondo made, like, 7 threes and won them that game.
It was only like a 5-point game.
They got saved by Rondo making 7 threes. A terrible career three-point shooter. Made 7 threes and won them that game. Yeah. Like, we were right there. Imagine if that Sixers team wins that game, goes to the Eastern Conference Finals, they would have got swept by the Heat. Swept.
Easily.
Gentlemen at best.
It would have been amazing looking back at it now and saying that Sixers team is the
made it further than this one. Like, literally, I mean, it's mind-boggling.
I still consider them making it further because they were
competitive the whole time. The whole time. Not through 2.5 quarters. I mean, that was a freaking joke.
Yeah.
It was a joke.
It sucks looking back at it now that that's what we decided to tear down to get to this.
I know. Yeah.
It's
definitely.
just sad. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on, but I'm just pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, really the main point of it is June 30th, 29. They're done. They don't have cap room. They don't have draft picks. They're done.
And I'm worried considering some of the coaches that have been thrown out. Like, look, you can get rid of Doc Rivers and put in Monty Williams or the Bucks coach, and I'm fine with that. Mike D'Antoni is not the coach that you want stepping in.
No.
JJ Redick, whose name has also been thrown out, is not who I want stepping in.
No.
And I don't trust the front office. I don't trust Daryl Morey to make a smart decision.
Yeah, and
everything that's happened.
I don't even trust any coach. I don't trust Phil Jackson. I don't trust Red Auerbach. I don't trust any coach to come in here and change anything. I don't trust it. I don't see anything here being changed without a guy like Jimmy Butler. I just don't. Yeah. You lost it. You had it. Yeah. You lost it.
And now we're about to watch him. This is probably a good segue.
I hope he wins it all.
I hope he wins it all. This is probably a great segue into the Eastern Conference Finals because that's who we're going to watch.
I didn't say a shit about Embiid yet.
You can go in. Yeah, jump in first. Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously everyone who makes it to the league is a winner. They have great bodies, everything, like they win in life. But in terms of playoff basketball, Joel Embiid is a fucking loser. Straight up, he's not a vocal leader. We said this many times on the show. He's like Kevin Durant. He's not in people's ear when he needs to be. PJ Tucker he's the leader of the team in my opinion. He got us the 2 wins that we shouldn't have gotten because he got in guys' ears and they made him play better. But Joel Embiid, not only is he not a vocal leader, he shies away from big moments, as you said. He gets scared when he doesn't get hot shooting. He won't shoot after that. And he's not a first option. He somehow made me convince myself that he's not the MVP.
Well, no, he is a first option, but he's not the leader. That's what it is.
In the playoffs, he's not a first option.
I can't agree with that. I can't.
It's facts. We can't get out of the second round with him.
It's not. I mean, it's just, it's literally because they don't have leadership. They don't have a fight.
Yeah, and that's his fault. Saying. That's literally all his fault. It all goes back to Joel Embiid.
He's not the leader.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But why shouldn't he be? He's the best player on the team on paper.
I agree with that, definitely. But he is a number 1 option.
Yeah, but literally the Sixers are fucked. There's nothing they can do to get themselves out of this situation.
Yeah.
Even keeping James Harden, great. He's a fraud. He's even more of a fraud than Embiid is.
And what's he going to be next year? What's he going to be?
Nothing. He's literally going to be nothing.
He's going to be worse.
And I really think they just need to get rid of everyone besides Maxey and just start building with him and DeAnthony Melton because it's just so sad. I'm even kind of mad at how much he threw Simmons under the bus because he's not far off from him, honestly, at this point in terms of yes. He literally.
Oh, come on now.
No. I'm saying he's a coward. He is. He's a lot better of a player, but he's a coward. is a coward.
I
He'll
mean-
throw everyone under the bus. After Game 7, he'll
No,
say,
hold on,
me and
but
Harden can't win
he took
alone.
18 shots though. Like he did,
And he made 5 of them?
but he
5
took
of them?
18 shots. Like Simmons literally would take like 3 shots.
Okay,
in an entire
he's a
game.
coward still.
But I mean,
He'll blame
he's not
everyone.
A Simmons.
No,
he's
so
not a
here's the thing.
Simmons level coward.
I was, like I said, I was okay with him blaming Ben Simmons for that loss. Look, it wasn't all on Ben Simmons, but everyone will
Yeah.
remember that pass, the dunk that he passed
Yeah.
on. It's not okay what he did. Absolutely the hell not. It's not okay to throw your entire team on the bus. I do agree with that. However, he has constantly stepped up. Even when he gets hurt, he still plays through it. Now, again, I think he is a little bit soft with his injuries.
And he complains a lot.
He does complain a lot. However, this injury was supposed to be a little bit more severe. And I'm not defending Jamal at all. Like, he completely lost in the game. He's the reason Doc Rivers got fired. However, he's not, to me, as bad as Ben Simmons yet. He is starting to get there. Like, he is. I understand why people would feel that way. To me, Ben Simmons is much more of a fraud because he never showed the talent that Embiid did. Embiid showed that talent through an entire season. Ben Simmons would have one game and have people thinking there's the next coming of LeBron James.
Right, yeah.
That's where it's a little bit different.
I can't get into this team anymore, dude.
No, it's tough. It's not good. To me, they're stuck in neutral.
Yeah.
And had they kept Jimmy Butler over Tobias Harris
It'd be-
and also
it'd be
moved on from Ben Simmons,
Yeah.
we would probably be having a much different
It
conversation.
was way different. Definitely.
Yeah, okay, so enough about them. We could talk about the Heat next series. Obviously, there's not much to talk about, but on the Knicks side, Jalen Brunson is a top 3 point guard in the NBA, in my opinion. When you look at playoffs and regular season, I think they got something to build on.
Yeah.
And especially if they get RJ Barrett going, which he didn't get going at all really this season, but dump Randall and build around those 2 guys, and you really have something for the future.
Yeah.
Like,
I definitely agree that they have to move on from Randall. Like he looks like he holds them back in a lot of situations, and he does that thing that Embiid does too, where it's like the moping and like the just like it looks like he's giving up. It looks like that. Like there are a bunch of clips where Randall was turning the ball over and then not sprinting back on defense and like sitting there like throwing his hands up. It's like that's what loses you playoff games. And Brunson is a guy that wins you playoff games. And he was held back, unfortunately. In that game 6, he had 40, right? I mean, you can't ask for much more. I agree with you. Like, they have something there. You need to build around Brunson. And I remember saying when he got signed that they overpaid him. Looking like an underpay now. It's looking like an underpay.
Yeah, he definitely should have gotten the max.
Yeah.
The way they played this year. Yeah, I agree that Randall, to me, has always been a very inconsistent player. He has great spurts and great individual seasons, but he hasn't put 3 seasons together. And even last year when he struggled, there was a lot of people saying that the Knicks should move on from him. And he was better this regular season, but again, in the playoffs, he's just not that guy. I mean, he got outplayed. And not that him and Trae Young play the same position, but it's the same way that Embiid and Tatum don't. Tatum clearly outplayed Embiid. In that Hawks series, it wasn't even close that Young completely outplayed Randall. Randall was supposed to be the guy that helped New York move on. As I said, even though the Knicks won Game 5, and again, it was really close, to me, it wasn't a close series at all.
Yeah.
It should have been won in 5.
I
had
agree.
Jimmy Butler played Game 1. Knicks fans are still, to me, the most annoying people on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
You're not going to an Eastern Conference Finals either. The fact that you're asking for Joel to be great, get him, like, you're just going to get another complainer
I know.
to be in New York. Like, whatever. And it's solely, to me, the Knicks could have something great, but it's these other 2 teams that are in the Eastern Conference Finals and the one that the Heat knocked out. That's the reason why the Sixers, the Knicks, at this point, 3 will not make it to an Eastern Conference. Because there's 3 elite teams, and then you 2 that are just sort of scuffling around doing whatever you think is going to get you to win. And the other thing to me, too, is that you have this elite weapon, in my opinion, Obi Toppin, that you just refuse to play.
Yeah.
And I think Toppin, if you give him time to develop and actually give him a role on the team, could be something special.
Yeah.
And instead they just leave him on the bench and bring him out when they're down by like 20 or when they're up. And then he shows you these great athletic plays. But it's not enough because we don't actually know what he could do.
he's very raw. That's the problem. Like, they don't know how to use him in that offense. They have so many guys that, like, you have to prioritize over him because, like, you can't expect him to be a consistent option on, like, a 5th seed team in the East.
But why not? Because the 5th seed in the East doesn't really mean anything at this point to me.
Yeah. And I mean,
Fair.
what did Randall show you too? Like, I think it's worth giving Obi Toppin the shot. I think
Oh, he will get a shot next year.
because I think he has a
he'll be
better, like, I think he has a more consistent, more reliable jumper than Randall does, which I think would bode better for them because that fits not Randall, Brunson's play style a lot better. A guy that can create his own shot and, you know, try and diverge two guys into him. You know, I think that's what Brunson would like. And that's honest. I mean, Brunson does that. Whenever Brunson drives, there are 2 or 3 guys coming in on his handle and he's able to kick it out. They're getting open shots. And Barrett and Randall, they just really held him back. Like, Barrett is just so inconsistent from three. So inconsistent. And they need him to be like a 40% shooter. And he just can't do it. And that, I kind of feel like they should move on from him too. I think that it's time to pull a plug. And like, I think you got to just get what you can out of him. I don't think he has it. And listen, we can sit here. We have the experience, bro. Like, we should have pulled the plug on Simmons earlier too. You know, we waited and we got what we got. You could, I mean, I won't, this isn't my opinion, but I could see the case being made for Embiid too. Maybe you should have pulled the plug on him earlier and traded him. And, you know, do you see what these guys get traded for nowadays? You can get hauls, straight hauls. So I think that it might be worth it. I mean, he was a number 3 overall pick. He has potential. I think that a new setting might be better for him. Like, I think the Knicks should shop him and look to see what they can get out of him. Because if you can get a lot for him, do it. But, I mean, if no one's going to meet your needs or expectations, obviously you don't. And you have a pretty good player.
Yeah, this is really random, but we're watching the Lakers-Nuggets game, and I just saw both Scottie Pippen Jr. and Malik Beasley on the sideline together. That's just...
Oh, no. I didn't even realize that.
That's disgusting, dude.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's got to be awkward.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can move into the Lakers Warriors series. So obviously it was done in 6, and the Warriors aren't looking like themselves. Jordan Poole is ice cold when it mattered most, and I don't really know. Like,
yeah, I think we said this when the Kings were playing the Warriors. Like, the Kings got them on their heels, and the Warriors weren't looking like a championship team. And that, I mean, the Lakers did that for the whole series. That's another 6-game series that I don't think was really that close. I mean, Golden State took the 2nd game and the 5th game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were down 3-1. I mean, the Lakers, I mean, they owned them a couple times. They blew them out in a couple of those games. And I just didn't really think the Warriors had a shot. Like, just the feel of when the series is moving along. You just never really felt like they had a chance. That's how I felt about the Knicks. I didn't feel like they had a shot against the Heat. And the Lakers, I mean, this is the best 7 seed I've seen in a long time. They are really good. And same with the Heat, too. Yeah. The best 8 seed I've seen in a long time. It's crazy to see how far this Lakers team has come from, like, November.
And they
were horrible.
It's crazy.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's, like, crazy, too, because, like, they locked up D'Angelo Russell. He was a non-factor in that whole series, and they still couldn't get anything done because Anthony Davis and LeBron just completely overrode his production, and like they don't even need D'Angelo Russell to like go far out of the 2nd round, or like he was even a non-factor tonight. The game just finished and Nuggets won, but like he hasn't played at all in the 2nd half. Like,
yeah. And the Lakers actually put up a really good fight. They were down like 14 in the 4th, and then they cut it as close to 3, I saw, with like 3 minutes left. Like, the Lakers have a real shot in this series, and yeah, I mean, if they can get just a little more out of D'Angelo Russell, you know, I think they have a real shot at getting past the Nuggets, but the Nuggets look really good.
Yeah,
the Nuggets look really good. Jokic is going crazy right now. I mean, he's the real MVP.
He is.
Yeah.
And in that series, when they played the Suns, like the Suns kind of remind me of the Sixers, like of the West, because they're just so depleted outside of like 2 people, and like they had no help on the bench, and it took like a miracle performance from Landry Shamet that was never matched again to get them to extend the series one more game. And there's just like nothing that the Suns can really do besides like shopping. Well, you won't get anything for like Chris Paul or DeAndre Ayton. Like, you literally have to like pull something out of your ass to like get this team back to where you want them to go.
They gave Ayton a max last offseason too. I mean,
and they could have let him. Yeah,
they should have let him walk, because you're right. Like, what are you going to get out of him right now? Nothing. I mean, you're not getting a star. No. And I mean, no one's giving up a first round pick for him. Like, I'm sorry, that's just so unrealistic. So you're stuck with him, and that's kind of where the Sixers are too. You're either gonna have to eat the cap hit, or you're gonna have to ride it out with him, which both kind of suck. But I feel like for both sides, the better option is just to eat the cap, and get him off your team. Like, I think it's just better in all situations to just move on. Like, if it's not working, just get out of it and find a new path somehow. Like, a lot of the people with the Sixers are saying, well, if you get rid of Harden, like, what's the other option? Dude, I don't care. Like, dude, just not him. That, I feel like that's the thing with Ayton. It's like, what is it? Ayton got paid, what, 130 million?
Something like that.
It was northward of 150, I think. And like, what does he do to earn that?
I will say, though, I knew the series was over when Ayton was hurt and Jack Landale was in as the starter.
Yeah.
And that's where the Suns are at, where they need a center to just compete with Anthony Davis, to compete with Jokic.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing now about the West, because basketball has moved, especially the NBA, has moved so much away from centers, and yet you have a guy like Jokic who's just tearing it up.
Yeah.
So you need to have, in the West, a center to shut him down.
Yeah.
And Aiden, unfortunately for the Suns, has to be their guy.
Yep.
And Lindale, look, he put in the best effort he could, considering his skill level, but it was never going to work.
No.
And like I said, at that point, when I found out that Aiden was out, I was like, oh, this is not going to be a close game. And the Suns, and especially because of Cameron Payne, who was a guy that I shit on early on the series, hey, he was the big reason why that game was even close at all. But the moment that Jokic woke up, it was just done.
It was over. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is, like, when Jokic is putting up like 50 and 40 in 3 and 4, I know they lost both of those, but you just kind of felt like if the Nuggets just got a little more out of their other guys, like they were going to take one of those games. So when the Nuggets won 5, I was like, this one's, I don't think it's coming back for a 7. And I mean, it showed. Like, Murray stepped up in that 6th game. MPJ even stepped up a little bit. Like, they just got more out of their other guys, and that's where they're able to win on the road. That's kind of where the Celtics were too, because even in that game, like in that game 6, Tatum didn't do anything. Like, he was holding them back, actually. But, you know, those guys just kept him afloat, and then he was able, I mean, the 16 points in the 4th quarter, I mean, they mainly came under 6 minutes too. And that says a lot. I mean, that's really impressive, and that's enough to boost a game for Tatum like that, like where he's playing like crap and then goes off. Like, you're able to say he had a good game. And that's kind of where the Nuggets were. Like, they were getting those insane performances from Jokic, but nothing out of the bench. Yeah. And it was like they just needed the little bit more, you know?
Yeah, they got that from Brown tonight off the bench for them. So they have, guys are starting to perform for them well. I was surprised to see the Lakers come back like that. Yeah. But the Lakers are a deep team too, like you said.
Yeah.
The other thing going back to that Lakers series, the most surprising thing to me is that Clay was cold as well.
He was terrible.
Really, really bad. Like, one of the worst playoff performances we've seen from Klay Thompson ever.
Yeah.
Didn't he say he was going to do it for Kobe this series or something?
Did he? Something like that?
Yeah,
I hope not.
Oh, that would be really bad, especially the way that Tatum literally looked like a second coming of Kobe.
Yeah.
Clay looked like the second coming of, I don't even know, but definitely not Kobe.
Yeah.
But it's just, it was weird to see them so cold.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can come back now.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, where are the Warriors going to be? Because do you want to bring back Draymond or Clay? Like, I don't want to bring back either of those guys. I don't want to bring back Poole.
And Kerr's done the best.
Well, what are you going to do if you don't bring back any of them?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah. They're
like,
stuck.
especially Draymond, like, you can't get rid of, like, the vocal leader on the team.
The issue, though, that there's certain times where Draymond is so toxic being the vocal leader. And I think Steve Kerr, to his credit, because there's been a lot of talk, especially now with Doc Rivers being fired and all these other coaches, that NBA coaches are mostly there just to keep guys in check. Well, Kerr's done an amazing job keeping guys in check, because I feel like any other coach would have lost this team.
Yeah.
With the way that Draymond was so vocal, and the whole James Wiseman situation, which people tend to forget about. Like, that was a top 3 pick that just did not work out. And most teams would flounder off of that. The Warriors won a championship after that. So I think Kerr's done an amazing job, but I feel like this is sort of the limit of these guys have been around each other for so long that at a certain point, it's just not going to work. And I feel like this has been the limit where they got knocked out for the first time this early in the West.
Yeah.
And it feels like that Draymond is frustrated with the role that he was at, even though this has been his role the whole time. I think that he's tired of just being the vocal leader. Curry, for as brave as he is, he's not the most vocal guy. I mean, he steps up when he has to, and he'll show more emotion than he has to. but he's not the guy that you're relying on to get you those rebounds the way that Draymond is.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that the Lakers are at the point where they don't have a guy that I feel like can shut down Jokic. They don't have a guy that can step up with AD to actually shut down AD the way that Jokic can.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you have two guys like that in the West, and I just don't know if they have the defense either, if the Suns run back this team with Booker and Durant, I just don't feel like they have the defense either.
Yeah.
And I think that the writing's on the wall at this point. Maybe they run it back, but again, these guys are getting older. Curry's already been hurt for 2 years before this. I don't know if this team's actually going to be healthy enough to go back and win a championship.
Yeah, I kind of think we're at the end of the road for their dynasty too.
And this has been an amazing, it's been an amazing dynasty.
Oh yeah, this is one of the best teams I've watched in sports. It's like the Patriots, the Brady Patriots, and the Curry Warriors.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
Because just most dynasties don't have this longevity.
Yeah.
Even the Bulls one, they really struggled without Jordan.
Yeah.
And even then, it was 6 championships in 8 years. This one's been going on a while.
Yeah.
And it's been with really bad play as well.
Yeah.
And inconsistent play at certain points, especially when Curry got hurt and Clay got hurt.
Yep.
And it was literally just Draymond and a bunch of second round picks playing together to beat the Rockets on Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was just an amazing game. And it showed the leadership of these guys to step up in that role. But to me, it's just been an amazing dynasty, and it's sad that it ended this way, not with another championship. But I do think that it's been awesome to see other teams in the West step up, and it showed that the Warriors' legacy will be that the three ball has been changed, and that is what's going to be relied on to score.
Yeah, they changed the game, and that's the thing that the Bulls didn't do. Like the Bulls were an amazing team, obviously, but they didn't change anything. No. The Warriors changed the game. The
one thing the Bulls did was perfected the triangle offense, which is so obsolete at that point that nobody even remembers.
Yeah, And what happened no one used the triangle after Phil Jackson.
No, because it didn't work. Jackson tried it at the beginning when he went to the Lakers, and I realized that Kobe is not that type of player. He completely changed his offense. It was you could only run that offense with a certain team, and the Lakers tried it a little bit. A little while ago, and it just flat out did not work. Yeah. And they're we're scrapping this too. So it's not. It hasn't revolutionized basketball the way that the three ball and opening up the space has changed basketball.
And you also see nowadays the amount of off-ball movement and screens that teams use. That's all Curry. That's a lot of it from Curry. And it's weird. We also see teams that don't use off-ball movement at all. Yeah. Philadelphia 76ers. I'm looking at you. Yeah. And those teams struggle. But look at what Denver does. They get the ball to Jokic and just constantly 4 guys moving around Jokic. Yeah. And he's able to dish and find everyone. That's why they're a 1 seed in the West. That's why they're in the Western Conference Finals.
That's why, even when Embiid and Harden are out, guys like Furkan Korkmaz go stupid because they don't know how to play with him when they're both on the court together because it's just isolation and pass to the other isolation score. And if they don't get anything, they chuck a contested shot or try to get a free throw.
Yeah, or they do a pick and roll together and you guys just have to stand there and catch the pass and shoot a three.
Literally, it's so hard to be like a Tobias Harris or Tyrese Maxey on that team. It doesn't work.
And that's Harris is not a guy where you just throw him the ball on the 3-point line and he shoots it. It makes it 40% of the time. Yeah. He's a guy, you give him those isolation looks a little bit here and there and he's able to get into the mid-range, get some layups. That's his game. And I mean, Embiid and Harden they don't elevate him, I said earlier. They just don't.
Well, I think that the biggest issue is that isolation basketball has just become so obsolete at this point. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and even Kobe, he was an ISO guy, but he always said that his ISO is not a Harden ISO. Right. He said that a couple years before he died, he was what Harden does is different from what I did. My guys didn't stand and watch me do stuff.
Yeah, and that's what's so frustrating to watch certain teams. The Sixers are the one that mostly comes to mind. But there's other teams, again, those teams that are not great run this too. Yeah. Where you rely on 2 guys and just have everyone stand around. Again, that's why I love watching Curry because he's always moving. When I watch the Nuggets, nobody's stationary. Yeah. Jokic crashes the boards every single time after a 3. Mm-hmm. And everyone literally moves the rotation and once he gets the rebound. Yeah. Right. It's great basketball to watch. It's why these teams are so successful. And that's why I'm hopeful that some of these newer coaches that have learned this type of offense step up and sort of replace the older guys like Doc Rivers, who, again, although I feel like Doc never got the credit he deserved in Philadelphia, considering all the controversies and everything he had to deal with, that was a big flaw in the offense, is they never tried to change that.
Yeah, right. I agree with that.
So we can move into the NFL. I'm skipping the Chiefs and Lions games. We talked about that last week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, early predictions for the NFL. Personally, okay, I'll just start right now. I think the Jets are gonna take the division.
I like that.
I think the Falcons will win their division too.
I said that last week, and I'm interested that you're now going along with that too. I like the Falcons. I did look at the Jets schedule, and just looking at their schedule, it is relatively easy considering who they just got. Like, they're starting out, here's their first 3 games. Week 1 Bills. So their schedule starts out a little bit tough, but then it's Broncos, Giants, Chargers, Raiders, Bills again, Dolphins, Falcons, Texans, Dolphins, Commanders, Browns, Patriots. So it starts out pretty tough. I could see them finishing 0-3. So it's the actual week 1 is Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs. Even that, I can see them going 2-2. At that point, you're pretty much fine with how bad the AFC is.
Yeah.
So I can see it happening.
Yeah. And I think for me, a bold prediction, I think Jacksonville is going to finish in the top 3 next season.
In their conference?
Yeah, in the AFC. I think that, their division is weak. I think Tennessee is going to take a massive step back. I think Houston is going to remain about what they were. I think they'll improve, but not necessarily.
They'll be like a 5-win team.
Yeah, like I think they'll improve in terms of eye test and what you see on film, but I don't know if they'll necessarily bump their win total up that much. And I think Indianapolis, again, going to be same. I think they're actually going to look worse than they did last year, which is tough to do because they were pretty putrid. I think that's an easy division for Jacksonville. I love Doug Peterson as the coach. I love him taking a young QB under his wing. That reminds me a lot of Carson Wentz. The size, the arm ability. And honestly, I think that Trevor Lawrence is a better leader than Carson Wentz ever was. Like, I think this is a guy that is truly a franchise QB. What he did in that playoff game last year, I think it spoke a lot about him.
Yeah, that's like what Jason Tatum did.
Yeah, like not his talent, but like his mentality and his mindset and his leadership. He throws 4 picks in the first quarter. The game looks over. And then he comes out in the second half and completely turns the game around. And like, again, it's not all because of Trevor Lawrence. Like, they had a great defense. They had some guys who stepped up on the defensive side of the ball too. But when Trevor Lawrence is your franchise guy, he's your leader, like, it says a lot about him. So I loved that. And I think that they're ready to take a step forward this year because they started the year off pretty slow and picked it up at the end, were able to get a playoff spot at the end of the season. I don't see them losing their division at all this year. And I could see like 10 or 11 wins, and I think that is good enough. You know what? Maybe I stepped a little too far. I could see 3 or 4. 4.
I think 4.
Yeah, because now that I'm saying 10 and 11, I'm like, KC, Cincinnati,
the Jets or
Buffalo,
Bills,
like the
AFC
AFC is winning.
Yeah. The thing is, for me, at this point, obviously injuries will play a factor and all this other stuff that always happens during the season. But an early look, to me, there's not going to be a whole lot of massive changes with top teams.
Yeah.
San Francisco, to me, is still very, very good, even though they don't have the whole quarterback thing figured out. Once they figure that out, I think they'll be fine. Obviously, Seattle could be right there. I just don't know. Again, I have to just see Geno Smith play as well as he did last year.
Yeah.
Before I say definitely. But I see either one of those 2 teams, and they were the top 2 teams in their divisions anyway.
Yeah.
The Eagles, to me, are still a lock to win their division.
I can agree.
I don't really see any team that has made massive changes to really compete with them, although their schedule will be a lot tougher. The only 2 teams that I really see making, or 3 teams, I guess, making huge leaps are the Lions, who we already talked about. The Falcons, who Jack and I talked about, saying that they've improved a lot and really no other teams in the NFC South really have, except for the fact that the Saints got Derek Carr, but to me that's just not a big enough factor to jump up and say they're definitely.
Who's he going to throw to?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, they have Olave, right?
Olave.
That's it. Like Michael Thomas,
if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
So I'm going to piss both you guys off real quick. I think the Eagles are going to have an early exit in the playoffs this year. So every team that's been the best on paper for the last couple of years has not done well in the postseason, let alone win the Super Bowl. So, like, I can't find a weakness on this team, but when you're put up so high, your egos are just going to explode and you're just going to have to get humbled that way. So I don't see the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl, let alone winning it. And honestly, they might get the first round bye. I could see them losing the first game if they get the first round bye.
I just don't see anyone in the NFC that really like compares to them. I mean, this Eagles team is this is better than just like any fluke NFC #1 seed, because we've seen a lot of them.
Someone will show themselves, so it's not obvious right now. Someone will. I don't know. Someone will show themselves.
This could be the Lions here. I really do think this could be the Lions here, that they'll have an Eagles type thing, and I do agree, Jack, that a lot of teams that are that good do regress after making the Super Bowl. Look, the 49ers are still a great team, as much as I hate to admit it. They're still a great team. They're always competitive. Even after they went to the Super Bowl, they had a down year and then are back where they are. Like, even if the Eagles have an early exit, that's not the end of it for them. And I think that's where we're always, I think, especially Philly fans, are always in the mindset where the moment you lose a playoff game, that's it, you're done, like you don't have another chance. I don't think that's the case with the Eagles.
Oh, no, I'm just saying this year.
I don't know, and I understand. I just think that the reason why people would get pissed off by that is they think that, the moment you're, lose, your window is shut.
Yeah.
Like, this Eagles team has a wide window for a long time, in my opinion. Much different than the 2017, where they had a lot of aging veterans on the team and no one really realized it at the time. At least offensively, no one realized at the time that those wide receivers wouldn't be around for a while.
Yeah.
And that Carson Wentz wasn't the guy, where Jalen Hurts, as long as he can stay healthy, will be that type of leader that you want. But I do agree that there is teams to me that can step up. Like I said, I'm really high on this Lions. Maybe we'll look back at this and say that's a bad pick, but the Lions just have so much youth on this team. They have a great coach in Dan Campbell, and they're hungry. And I think the moment that they're competitive enough to make it to a playoff game, they'll show how tough they really are. And I do think that there is some truth to the fact that you get cocky, you overlook some of your opponent. And I could see that, unfortunately. Look, it won't be the same way that it's happened with the 49ers, with the Eagles, where they just came in really cocky for absolutely no reason. Look, this Eagles team just made it to Super Bowl. They have a reason to be cocky.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's going to be other teams that are just as hungry as Eagles to get to a Super Bowl, and feel like their window's wide open.
I agree with that.
Actually, a team that could step up to them, the Niners. Obviously, they're going to start with Sam Darnold, but I could see Brock Purdy repeating what he did last year, stepping into the season late. And think about it. If Trey Lance somehow takes Brock Purdy's job, imagine how much better he'd have to play than Brock Purdy. And imagine how much that team would have to be clicking in a better way than they were with Purdy when he stepped in.
I mean, I just don't know if either of those two guys can. I don't think Brock Purdy can replicate really what he did last year. And especially when NFL teams and NFL defensive coordinators are going to have, 12 games of film on him now. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be really tough. And I mean, Dallas made him look not great in that NFC divisional game. They kind of made him take a step back. And then in that opening drive, I know it's just one drive, and I'm not trying to bash him entirely, but he didn't look really all that great either. And then the Eagles just blew through their line and blew his arm up. Yeah. So he didn't even get a chance to prove anything in that game. So I don't want to knock him, but I don't think he can replicate what he did last year. I don't think the 49ers have the mindset to go into a place like Philadelphia and win a game. And I think Philadelphia's mindset is completely the opposite of overlooking opponents. I don't think they put themselves above any team that they play. I think they go into every game with the same mindset that we can lose this game, but if we prepare ourselves the right way and if we execute on the field the right way, there's no one in this league that can beat us. And I don't see, here's the thing. I put the Eagles on the level of Kansas City, and I put the Cincinnati Bengals on the level of both Philadelphia and Kansas City. Because Cincinnati, they have the talent, they have the leadership, they have the mindset to compete with a team like Kansas City. They proved it. They went in there into Arrowhead, and they beat them. They came back, actually, from being down at halftime, double digits, and came back and won that game. I don't see anyone really in the NFC. I like the Lions pick because leadership, mentality, I love all that. They're very, very tough. The talent is just lacking there. It's just the talent. That's the only thing. 49ers, they have the talent. They just lack the leadership. That's the only thing
that worries me about the 49ers, they haven't done anything to add pass protection.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they've always struggled is that they can't keep their quarterback healthy. Yeah. Any of their quarterbacks healthy. And to me, Sam Darnold is just not that guy. He's just not. I was really hoping they'd step up for Carolina, and I get that Carolina was not the situation we thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year. Obviously, I didn't think they'd be great, but I thought they'd be a little bit better than they were. But Darnold didn't do anything to make them play better.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that Darnold, even though he's going to be put in a great offense with Kyle Shanahan, I know Shanahan can make any quarterback look better, I just don't know if Darnold can be the type of person that everyone wants him to be. And I do think that Brock Purdy will regress a lot, considering that there will be more tape on him. The fact that now it's not just going off of adrenaline, it's now learning a more complicated offense. offense. Because I do think that the 49ers were able to make the offense easier to learn for a backup.
Yeah.
But you can't run that simplistic offense to a Super Bowl. The Eagles proved that.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think you can do it for an entire season again either. So, and like I said, defensive coordinators, like, they're going to have all that film on you. They're going to be taking away your first looks a lot. Like, Brock Purdy is going to have to make a huge, huge leap in order for him to do what he did last year. You know, like, look at what Jalen Hurts did in 2021 and then what he was in 2022. Right. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to make
Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick that was a borderline first one.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, again, not trying to knock Purdy because what he did was amazing considering the role that he was given and the fact where he was drafted. But there was a reason that he was drafted so low.
Yeah.
And it's because there is a lot of question marks around.
Yeah. Right.
And the fact that he wasn't supposed to do what he did.
Right.
Stepping into the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So we'll end off back with the NBA. We could talk about Ja Morant for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously he brandished a gun on Instagram Live again after he got suspended 8 games for it, and probably a culmination of all the other allegations too. But a lot of people are calling for him to be suspended for at least 15 games, like around the midway point of the next season. But I'll start. I think he should be suspended the whole season. I think he's an asshole. I think the fact that he went into counseling conveniently at spring break time in Florida for 11 days is kind of disgraceful because he doesn't have actual problems the same way that other people that check into these clinics do. And he clearly didn't learn his lesson, and he literally got a slap on the wrist. So if you don't lay down the law this year, you're not going to do any justice to him, the team, and you're just going to lose a lot of money and talent if you don't really lay the hammer down.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to disagree with you there. Like, although I like Ja Morant as a player. I don't want to see him suspended for a year, but at the same time, like, what are you doing? How many more chances do you need? And, like, you're going to have to lay down a strict line in order to get some discipline out of not only him, but players that are in the league now, players that are going to come into the league in the future. You have to lay the line right now. This can't happen. We aren't allowing this. You need to handle yourself as a professional on and off the court at all times. That's just how it is. That's the type of league you're in. I'm sorry. And it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Don't pull your gun out.
Yeah.
And like other athletes have been coming out and saying, dude, everyone has a gun. Like there are tons of athletes with guns.
Yeah.
They
don't tell
probably.
you, and they don't show you. They have guns though, so you don't need to do this.
Do you think every time that James Harden goes to a club in Vegas or Texas that he's not carrying on him? Like,
right? Yeah, and he
is.
And listen, he has security around him that is carrying too. Like
he can afford security.
Yeah. Absolutely, but so can Ja.
Yeah,
that's the.
That's what I'm saying. Ja can.
Ja can absolutely afford it too.
Yeah.
So it's just there's no reason for you to be putting yourself in these situations that you have been. And he did this Instagram Live in public, right? That was was that part of the issue?
It was in a car.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
You don't know where he was though.
So,
that's the thing.
So it wasn't obviously okay. So that part I didn't know, but still, like...
He was driving, that was part of the issue.
Okay, so you just gotta... Look, you can show off cars, you can show off jewelry. That's fine. Guns, they're a very hot topic, and the fact that you're putting yourself in situations where you've just been pulling out guns for no reason, with very limited context for any reason to, and now you're doing this stuff after already being suspended, like Jackie said, it's dumb. It's
really, a felony in most states, too. That's the problem. Like, you don't know where he was, so if he was in, a state with really strict gun laws, he could really get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So it definitely is concerning. The NBA will be taking this very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And he probably should be suspended a year. Whether or not they do it, we'll see. We've never really had an incident like this before.
Yeah.
Not with Silver, at least. Stern had it with Gilbert Arenas. But
again, that was different because that was brought into the arena.
Yeah.
We've never had a guy that's just pulled out a gun multiple times on multiple different people.
Mm-hmm.
And had, those types of warnings. That arenas thing, to me, is a little bit different because it was an isolated incident that was really stupid.
Yeah.
And, look, stuff obviously happens. I'm not saying it's right. It's definitely not. But you can handle that. When it's multiple times like Miranda's and you've already punished him once and he hasn't learned his lesson, that's where it starts getting really concerning. Because then you start to wonder if he's going to put himself in a situation where something will get worse. And I've already said that is a possibility if you're just being this blatant about it.
Yeah, right.
And the NBA cannot take that risk with one of their star players.
Yeah, no, they can't. And they won't. I mean, they flat out won't. Like, Carmelo Anthony came out and told a story about David Stern doing what he did when Melo was in the league when he was a young guy in Denver. Stern was telling him, I don't take this. Like, this doesn't happen in our league. You know, you have to act a certain way. And I'm helping you. You think I'm being a nuisance, but I'm helping you. And Ja Morant, it's just not getting through his head. Yeah. It's just not.
And I think that is the most frustrating part, is guys like Melo learn their lesson about messing with league policy. Arenas never, I don't remember any other issues with Arenas after that.
Yeah, no.
Because it was just handled once and it was done. So I think Silver wanted to be nicer because it was sort of just allegations. Like, obviously allegations like that are pretty strong, but at the same point there wasn't like video evidence. It wasn't like that type of thing. So you wanted to give Morant the benefit of the doubt. You can't do that anymore. You literally taped yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just like letting people tape it. You're literally taping yourself doing this after already, but it's just really, really stupid.
Yeah.
I think that Morant, the only way that he will learn his lesson is getting suspended for a lengthy amount of time. And it is good that these reports are coming out that the NBA is taking this very seriously.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm. So I think we could leave it off there. You'll catch us Saturdays at noon now. And we're going to wrap up season 1 of this podcast after the last game of the NBA Finals. So make sure to catch all the episodes before we cut it until football season starts. See ya.